Make sure you don't lean too far out of the realm of your patient.
I got you.
Yes, yes. Welcome, every throngs of you, to this lovely, ostensible discussion. I will let Bill Short take the floor, and we'll have a good time.
Well, I welcome you to this brief discussion of three things today: Jane Austen, Kate Hamill, and Germantown Community Theater, which have come together so beautifully in the hands of this stellar cast and this director. May we have one more round of applause. I could perhaps begin with what you may already know. My pedigree with Jane Austen goes back to Theater Memphis, where I had the great honor of working with the redoubtable John Roan on three productions: Pride and Prejudice, Emma, and Sense and Sensibility. Mm-hmm. And they were given in their way to the more sensible versions of doing it. But happily so, today what we saw was a fresh, new opening up of this text that we could say we know. We may have seen the films, we may have seen the TV versions, but I will always say the richest experience is the book. And as a librarian, I guess I get to say it. If you haven't read the book, I would urge you to do so. We all have our favorite version. And I think to start with, to talk about Jane Austen, where did she come from? I can feel her presence here almost. I can feel almost. Oh, it's here. That's adorable. Okay, it's a refrigerator magnet, but it just happened to be in my pocket. So she's going to listen. There's someone who, well, you can tell this is not going to be a serious discussion of this rom-com. Jane Austen surprised everyone by coming up, as she did, a minister's daughter, probably also at a small school, so they read all the time. And she had mentors, friends of her family, who urged her to read poetry and plays. That's what they read a lot of. And plays, and especially Shakespeare, informed her way of storytelling. She tells a story through dialogue. She tells the plot through dialogue, which is how we all talk to each other. It's very natural. It's very good. The novel was a new thing. It was coming on. In fact, she read Clarissa, which impressed her quite a lot. And she began to think in terms from her early writing as a child, her juvenilia, that maybe she could pull a story together. And what she learned, though, was the observation of her family, of the people in her sphere. She was of the gentry. They had land. They were not the nobility, but she certainly knew nobles, and she certainly went to Chatsworth, which is the modern for Emily. And that's still there. It's an enormous house. It's one of the A1, as they list them, country homes. So she knew this society. In fact, she would go on to meet the regent, the Prince Regent. King George goes crazy. The madness of King George. So his son has to step in and be the Prince Regent, who rules at this point. She publishes her books, Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, all six of them. She starts off, it's published by a lady. It's not thought to be respectable to be a writer. It's like you need money. So, but she had this gift for storytelling, and she doubted it a little bit, but she decided after the success of the first book, and especially the second, that maybe she should take this on. They are comedies of manners, but they're extremely insightful. I mean, look at the quality of the kinds of characters she puts just into this Pride and Prejudice. We have the daughters run the range from beautiful, plucky, accomplished, and rapacious. She shows us all the aspects of society in this one family. Oh, and they're all girls, so what's that going to be? There are two things that are drivers in this period: property, money, and hormones. That hasn't changed. Mrs. Bennet, the ditzy Mrs. Bennet, is desperate to get these girls married because they won't have anything unless they become Mrs. Somebody. And the rough passages for most of them become the real charm of the story. The long-suffering the witty Mr. Bennet is also a character to admire. We wonder how this marriage has lasted, how there can be so many children when they seem so dissonant. But she puts that in there because of the qualities that we could all know in somebody's marriage, and how this is kind of continued and how it will survive. We see also in the totally annoying Mr. Collins, when she is totally annoying Mr. Collins, who is sucking up Lady Catherine, who is redolent of so many characters in other fiction. She's like Mr. Bose. She's like the aunt in Little Women. She's older, she's female, she's single, she's very vulnerable. Rich won't save you as you get older and closer to death. So she has advice for everyone. Put an inconvenient room. She's very quick to tell everybody else what to do, and very haughty. And she thinks her money is going to carry that weight. Well, she finds her victim, where's her willing victim in Mr. Collins. We see in this also Jane Austen's understanding of the letter. Many of the novels up to this point had been, here comes a big word, epistolary. They had been just groups of letters. If you ever read the original Dracula by Bram Stoker, it's all letters. And so she looked at that concept and thought, letters are people talking. They're people telling. Colin sends a letter to the Bennets about his intentions. Darcy and Lizzie exchanged letters, and we hear from them directly. But this is not Jane Austen's only reason for letters. She wants that to carry the spirit of each of those people to the other flower who lives. And they talk to each other in their very clumsy, awkward ways. We can see them falling in love. She loved Much Ado About Nothing from Shakespeare, so we can see that senior couple, if you want to call it, the 30s, 40s couple, who obviously have fallen in love, but they're bickering all the time. And we watch this finally take its final lap, and after 2 hours and 10 minutes, a kiss. That's pretty important. The other thing is dancing. This is the only way that young people in that day and age could have acceptable courtships. They were all very much in public and under the watchful eye of their parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles, the duenas, anybody else that was approving of what's going on. A young lady could dance twice with one person. If she danced longer than that with that gentleman, it looked like there was something going on, but they had an announcement, or I don't know. Jane Austen, was a naughty kitten and spent way too much time with a gentleman in France and had to have talking too when she got home. We don't know enough about Jane Austen. Her letters were burned. Her sister, Sandra, burned about almost 2,000 documents. But much remains. We can read her letters. They're published. Check them out at the public library. You can read her juvenilia, her young writing, and then we can see her unfinished works. Ambition never got finished, but it's on PBS. It's online, and she shows the range of her thinking and viewing. It's character, person of color, which surprises people. They just don't see what's coming with Jane Austen. I think there may be two groups. People think it's chick lit, or they understand it the way we're talking about it today, where she sees into the hearts and minds of people and eventually their souls. Well, I'm going to put Kate Hamill here today. She, a young actor in her 30s, I believe still, a playwright. Kate Hamill has decided to take these much honored classics. She's done Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility. I think Emma has just been done. Vanity Fair, Thackeray's Vanity Fair. She's done
Little Women, Dracula.
Little Dracula, which is a feminist revenge drama, and Ms. Sherlock and Ms. Holmes.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. What Kate Hamill loves to do is take these works that we could and should know, and she opens them up, and she takes them out of the male gaze. She looks at them as a feminist, which she is, and she's taken these works, and here she's taken all of the women's stories and put them forward. The ditziest to the smartest to the shyest, they're all in the center of this story. And the way she's put this in surprising ways, the cross-dressing, the mixture of other work, John Dunn's For Whom the Bell Tolls, it's all out of copyright, so she's okay. She's safe. She has turned out about a play a year, and she is among the most produced playwrights in America today. So Kate Hamill. And we get to enjoy more of her next season.
Yes.
And at this point, I want to turn this over to our director. Yes, surprise, there you're in.
Hello.
And you're going to talk, this is Mr. Kevin Cochran, who's going to talk to us about your approach to this piece.
Yeah. So what I loved most about this play is it was an unconventional telling of a story that is near and dear to everybody that we love. And when casting it, I wanted to take an unconventional casting approach as well, because there are countless human stories out there, but usually when it comes to romantic comedies, you have this type of woman or this type of man who is supposed to be telling the story, but then you turn that on their head and it resonates even more because there are more people that look the way that they do out in the world, as opposed to this quote unquote like model ingenue type that you typically see. And that is what I am most proud of this production, is we have so many people on this stage who really haven't had this showcase or this place to showcase their talent recently. Katie was a stage manager for me at my last show. Judith had like 3 lines in the last show. I directed her. Courtney's always been the quiet person in the corner, and now she's up here front and center. And Justin came back to Memphis a few months ago, and now he's done 2 shows with me since then. And I've made wonderful new relationships with Mitchell and Kashif, and I've known Ray for years, but never got to do a show with her. And it's just been absolutely wonderful to tell this story with all these beautiful people.
Well, I think this shows today's performance. I've seen this in rehearsal a time or two. And just before I had to leave town, I got to see a late dress rehearsal, but it was a whole different show today because you all are working so synchronistically. I mean, the multiple characters you're playing. I had the pleasure of listening to people sitting around me. They were reading the play, go, "Where's Mr. There's a Mr. Bennett in here, I think somewhere." Struggling, trying to find who's going to play the parts I know. And to watch them, people really of a wide age range today enjoyed the show. A twice-told tale maybe for many of these people, but they enjoyed it all over again, the way Kate Hamill had hoped it would, thanks to you all, thanks to everything that came together. And to my dear friend Courtney, we share a little backstory. Yes, it was Sense and Sensibility that I think we appeared together in.
We did, yes.
I was a serviceman. Well, I was the dog of James, wasn't I?
You were,
5 lines. But we got to dance together quite a lot.
Aw.
And I'll mention dancing again, that touching was like, oh my God, I got to touch. Holy Palmers, they're doing this thing. That was huge. That was a big moment because we were not allowed, our dances took a few licenses, but the official dances of the period, we were bowing and scraping and moving around and talking a lot. And touching, the exciting moment of touching, some, but one could not hold hands unless you were engaged. There are all these strict rules, and that was to make sure that things went well. Lydia didn't remember all those rules, apparently. So anyway, Courtney, can you talk to us something about playing this iconic role? How was that for you?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of big feelings about it. I'm gonna get emotional again, dang it. It was a dream role that I didn't know I had until I read it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I just love how much agency she has, and she in this adaptation in particular, she just feels real. She feels touchably relatable. I feel like you watch the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice, and she's just like, oh, I'm Keira Knightley. Oh, I'm playing Lizzie Bennett. I'm so shy. I don't know. It feels like Lizzie felt like a real person to me, and I related to her because I joked like, oh, I'm more of a Lydia when I think Pride and Prejudice, but I read this adaptation. Oh, I'm Lizzie. I am very stubborn. I make quick judgments and don't know, try not to, I don't keep an open mind, but, Lizzie, it's, I don't want to say, oh, I'll play a great role again, but, this is kind of the peak for me. And I also, for me, I saw, a lot of relatability. I had a feeling there was, something between her and Jane Austen. Jane wrote a bit of herself in Lizzie. And I kind of did my own research on that too. And they were very similar, that she also was very close to her sister, who was kind of the opposite of her. She also fell in love with a lawyer who she could not stand when she met him, and then fell in love with him and married him. And she, in the letter she wrote to her sister, it said something along the lines of, I just adore her, and I don't know if I will be able to stand anybody that doesn't love her. And I kind of feel the same way. I love Lizzie, and gosh, I feel so stupid.
No. Your audience was doing the same thing. You're just sharing what they were saying.
Yeah, I adore Lizzie, and it's just been such a joy, especially with this cast. We kind of came in, I knew, about, I would say 75% of you guys. I did not know Mitchell at all, and I'm very glad to call him a dear friend. Is one of the best team partners I've ever had. He communicates so well, and he's just really good energy. So yeah, I could not do it without everybody here as well. So I'm gonna stop blubbering eventually. So
Well, Jane Austen is giving you a call. For your work.
I will add to that as somebody who I typically do musicals, but I was often the funny lady that would come in and do something funny and then go away. And when years back I got cast as Donna in Mamma Mia, I thought, oh my God, somebody sees me as a lead role. I'm not, I always thought, I'm not skinny enough, or I'm not pretty enough, or I got to be just a funny lady. And I so identify with the imposter syndrome and the gratification that comes with telling a real story with a real human body and knowing that you can do it. Like, you belong in these roles. So
and
believe it.
I want to echo Kevin's sentiment. Like, he did not look. I had so many auditions where I don't consider myself a role like this. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not that type. And again, this was one where I was like, well, why not? Why not give it a chance? And I did, and I am so thankful to him for seeing past, because he likes to watch me do silly stuff on stage. I've done silly stuff in shows for him before, and he gets a good kick out of it. So I was like, oh, well, he'll probably want me to be the silly character. And the fact that he saw Lizzie in me, when I don't know a lot of other directors that would, honestly, it feels really good. It's it's a very good feeling, and I hope it is something that we will kind of move forward thinking about, think outside the box in terms of roles and what an opportunity looks like, or what any kind of role looks like.
Yeah.
Well,
Everybody loves.
Yes.
let's thank Kate Hamill for opening this play up to help us look at this in a fresh way.
Amen.
Let's thank Jane Austen for the wisdom of this piece. And those two women, 250 years apart, I think are the same person. They have the same kind of snark and insight and wit to see that the heart of this play, the love stories and the comedy, are rich and full. And so, that's what you get when you get to do this here in this chamber theater setting, which I've worked in since 1977. Knowing the powerful way that anything that happens here, glass menagerie, it's two people and some candles at the end, that gets really big when you have fewer than 100 seats. You play this in a 420-seat house, it'll be good, but it won't reach people the way all of you did today. It's just more powerful here. So that's what I'm saying. Jane Austen, Kate Hamill, this place, this company. I'd like to hear from one of you about playing two different characters, but mainly playing two different genders. Would anybody like to take that one?
Sure. I guess I'll go.
Mary.
So, when I originally got the offer to play Mary and Bingley, I was absolutely terrified. I've never played a woman before. I had no idea how I was even going to start. But luckily, in the script, Kate Hamill made the wise decision to write down that you shouldn't play as a woman. You shouldn't play as the opposite gender. You should just play the character. So that I could do. I know Mary, not as a woman, but as I understand kind of who she is. So all I did was soften my voice and put on a dress. And no, it's been a wonderful experience, especially with, again, this cast is remarkably supportive, kind of lightning in a bottle, I'm not gonna lie. It was such an incredible mix of people that, even though the first time I ever put on a dress was for a rehearsal for the show, and I felt super weird, but everyone, again, was very supportive, very easy to play off of, and switching back and forth between Mary and Bingley, sometimes kind of a rapid pace, was just made so much easier by Kate Hamill's foresight in how to create these characters and instruct the actors to play them.
And again, the material, all the pieces that Kate Hamill has taken are so durable that they can have this kind of fun, open response to it. And she means to surprise you, and I think she does in this production. Would you like to play the whatever that means to you, Kevin? I'm very happy for you. Also, there must have been a whole nother show backstage with the costume changes. Can you tell us about the magic of costume?
I'm sad I didn't get to see it.
Can we talk about that?
Annie and Justin had the wildest changes.
I guess. Sorry, Annie, do you want to go ahead?
No, I mean, Velcro. This show brought to you by Velcro. And of course, Abby Israel, our backstage crew. Abby. she called us up earlier this summer and said, I'd kind of like to hang out around the theater and learn some stuff or do some volunteering. And we were like, hey, jump in the deep end and do all this. She came to it willingly. There were times, especially during that one scene where, it's like Charlotte, eavesdrop, Bennett, eavesdrop, Charlotte, come back, Bennett, and you can hear the audience kind of go like, oh, as Mr. Bennett comes in to be like, what is this I heard about you not accepting the mantra, and you get a thrill out of that, like impressing people with how quick it can be. But definitely Velcro, definitely having things set where they go, and literally exiting one door and walking down the hallway like this into a dress, and of course, even when, Abby is only one human, so sometimes we would notice each other. There was one time on stage, I'm over here by the piano with Courtney, and my entire dress was just flapping in the breeze. And lovely Lady Catherine noticed and asked my husband to fix me when I came over to talk about the instruments. Little things like that, oh, bless her heart, I stepped on Lady Catherine's skirt, and lo and behold, Mary was a seamstress and fixed it for the next show. So, it adds. I hate when you feel bored backstage. So it's nice when things are just hopping. There's always something to be setting or preparing or switching or,
We also had our costume designer, Sarah, whose last name I do not recall.
Scott.
She built a lot of these garments from scratch completely. So my Mary dress was actually a tearaway. So I can just run off stage, rip it off, and then come back on as Bingley. And I think a few of them were, right? I know Bingley was like full on vest I had to wear, and I wore the dress over it. But did anybody else have any convenient costume construction?
I wore all the dad stuff except the coat under everything. So it was just coat, dress, coat, bonnet. But yeah.
Steamy.
I have to say Kashif's Bingley dress is maybe, I think, my favorite piece of material.
Iconic.
Oh, it's so
Dress.
pretty. And the turban.
And the way you came to life in the turban.
I've stepped on that dress so many times. It's just tearing apart. Oh my goodness.
Also, to commend Sarah again, a lot of mine, Katie's and Ray's dresses, they were made from like bed sheets. And I joke, but like I genuinely felt like a pretty princess, and that's like I felt so beautiful in those costumes. They are like one of my favorites I've ever worn. So it's amazing what she was able to do with every the material she was given, and just very big looking at her to also help kind of add to this production.
In the description of her characters, Jane Austen is very careful not to give you much. We know that Lizzie is not as tall as her other sisters. That she's plucky and fun, and she enjoys romping and running. Mr. Darcy, he's very careful not to give you much, Mr. Darcy. So your Mr. Darcy, your hottie hunk comes to mind whenever you see, or your college brother, whoever your favorite is. But if you're just reading this, well, now you have another choice. Now, in reading this, you get to imbue that character with what means the most to you. Again, Jane Austen did this before. I think in the fullness of time, we see, I have the advantage of seeing a more traditional version of this and this, and I'll say that in both cases, both directors, John Rowe and you, pacing is essential. Keeping the show moving and lively, but yet making sure that each of the moments connects for you, even though you think you know the story, this is a different way of presenting it. Our scene changes in the Theatre of Memphis production were 3 to 4 seconds, and that seems impossible. My design was just, if you know the next stage, you design scenery there, you design the audience as well. So it was in 3 quarters, and it was essentially an assembly hall. It had a chandelier, it had 4 columns. Oh, those 4 columns. This is their third time. It was those 4 columns.
Really?
Oh,
Sensibility?
And they reappeared in Sense and Sensibility. We got to reuse my practice.
I didn't know that.
Those
Oh my god,
columns.
that's gonna make me more emotional.
Those
God dang it.
columns. They know some Jane Austen, okay?
The Memphis Jane Austen column.
I don't think you all knew that. Those are the same columns. Oh, yeah.
I love that about theater.
That is cool.
And we had this bench that's here was sitting. Here's the audience on 3 sides. There was a bench here. Lizzie sits down, and some of her costume starts to come apart. And an audience member in the front row looks around and leans over and puts it back together. And Jade is like, okay, an audience member just put me back together. I'm going to keep playing, This is again the intimacy. I think is key to this story. Pacing and intimacy. Well, and talent. Maybe some talent's good too. Throw that in there, sure. But I think those elements that come together so richly here and again in the one I did before. So just imagine my thoughts when I look at them and see all that I see, and that happiness that comes from the experience should be for you, the audience. I mean, everything we do up here, as I said once, the magic takes place out there.
Mm-hmm.
What you really have up here, maybe a lot of sweaty people and a lot of cleaning plywood there. Who buys a ticket to that? But I said that one time and someone raised their hand and went, oh, well, okay, there's that person. I want to see the people. But it induces the storytelling that we do. The magic should really start taking place with you all. But I think I've heard some very heartfelt and emotional responses to the creation that came with this production. And we sadly put it in history books today. We thank you all. Questions? Do we have questions? We've talked a lot.
We got one.
Oh,
Thank you.
Representation matters.
Yes, that was huge for me. So I've just finally, after years of putting off, gotten into acting. I did my first audition like 3 weeks ago. And it's, I think, easy to get discouraged or like, especially when things don't work out, because I can be a perfectionist. So what advice do y'all have, especially getting into acting, or, you were talking about seeing yourself finally as a lead role with Lizzie, and I related to that so much.
Girl, man, that really so you don't. Oh wow, that's a lot. I'm also a perfectionist. They will all tell you what. This my brain is like a hamster wheel. I guess the most important thing you can't worry about what other people are going to think of it. And I spent a lot of this process worrying about someone says here tonight. I wonder what they're going to think of it. I wonder what they're going to think of it. Even Mitchell was like, don't worry about them. So just always find the joy in it. Like never lose that. That's the thing I can say. I'm not always a blubbering mess, guys. I promise I'm really fun normally.
I always tell myself each audition is like a free class. So no matter what you get out of it, you got that. All right? It got you to remind yourself that you have the courage to get in front of people and open your mouth. Many people in the population do not even have that. So everything else is a bonus. And then there are so many factors as to why people don't get cast. It could be conflicts. It could be you don't look like you could be their daughter. It could be, any number of things that aren't nothing to do with your level of talent or worthiness. So I would say fill your mind with all of those silly practical reasons instead of letting the gremlin tell you that you weren't good enough, for sure. And then just keep auditioning because it just makes you better. And the more you get seen, the more people go, remember that girl? Why isn't she here at this audition? So keep going.
Just really quick, I just have to add that just about the community, because the first time I was introduced to this, my daughter wanted to do a play, and Ray, I met her when she was 6 or 7, and it was a long time ago, and the best Christmas pageant ever. And what I was impressed, I was backstage. I was just a child mama, and I just sat backstage. And what I was really impressed with, was the community. It's very supportive. So even though it might be your first audition, you can bet, even though there's competition, we all want that one role, you can bet that while 1% is ego-driven and competitive, 99% of the people in there are so supportive.
Amen.
Before, during, and after. You will not come across a more supportive, caring group of people to be around on a day-to-day basis, no matter how shitty things might go for you. It just is. They have your back, no matter what. So I encourage you to, in whatever capacity, to stay into the community, because you'll always have that one support for sure.
Yeah. I have something, and I will not take too long, but
what are you saying?
I mean, so 3 things, and nothing of it is original, like to me at all. But the 3 things that I like to remember, at least for myself, kind of one of the things that Judith and Annie touched on is comparison is a thief of joy. Do not go into that audition room being like, oh, they're prettier than me. Oh, they've been in more. They've done this. Stop that. Okay. Second, if you stop learning, you stop growing. So go to those master classes, go to those audition workshops. Like, don't just, say, oh, I didn't get it, and that's it. And then the last thing, at least for me, being a bigger woman, is when I stopped caring about what my body looked like to other people, not just with theater, but in general, which I think bleeds over into theater. When I stopped caring about what my body looked like to other people, so did other people.
Amen.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I will censor it with friendly language, but I don't care or give a rat's patoot about how I look or any of that stuff. I think that keeping that confidence with you all the time, which is hard. I have days where I'm like, oh my God. Ugh. But keeping that with you every day, whether it's audition time or not, is important. And it'll just bleed over into auditions. And I'm proud that you auditioned.
Yes.
Keep doing it.
I think I speak for everyone, and I've done some acting. Auditioning is about the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Opening night nerves-
God, yes.
opening
God,
night
yes.
nerves are good. Usually on the stage. Auditioning is hard. It's just hard. So, but don't stop auditioning. If you don't get the part, just audition for something.
Yeah.
Are you still of school age?
Yes, I just turned 18.
Get it, girl.
Happy
Well,
birthday.
we have auditions in July for our best Christmas pageant ever this holiday season. I'm just
So much
saying.
fun. So much
Just
fun.
saying.
Yeah, this is a great theater. I said earlier about GCT. This is a great space. I've worked here since like 2018 now. This is like I think my 5th show GCT, and I truly can't say I've ever had a terrible experience here. So if there's ever anything here that you're interested in, I'm telling you, go for it. The staff here is fantastic. Andy's on staff here. Steven's back there. He's wonderful. This is my 3rd show in season 51, and obviously I've kept coming back because I love it so much. So yeah, if you ever, obviously all the other theaters in town are great, but I'm very partial to GCT. That's a piece of my heart. So.
We love you, Courtney.
I have another question right here.
Thank you, Jessica.
Sue?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
One statement and one question. The statement is, I seen opening night, and I'm back today, just simply because I
That's
wanted
fun.
to hear the talk,
nice.
so I signed up as a volunteer. The inclusiveness that's happened in these last couple of weeks between your opening show and this is just tremendous. Great job.
Thank you.
So we've gotten better. Is that what you're saying, Sue?
No, I didn't say that. No, the way y'all came together was really wonderful. The first show, it's like, where am I going to be? Where am I going to stand? Is he
Oh,
going to
yeah,
approach
yeah,
me? Is he
yeah.
not going to approach me?
Sure.
Where you know your spots tonight, and it worked out really well.
And so that's always the case because the ingredient that makes it theater is audience. So
Yes,
We
absolutely.
can do dress
Yeah.
rehearsals for another 3 weeks instead of show. But you don't know the audience response yet. So there's an insecurity. I mean, you know the piece, you've done it. But only after you really run it for a week or two does it become that ripened, ready to serve cheese. It's what
And then it's
at its
over.
best.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my question is, Bill, you said that the sister destroyed all the letters. Was it to protect
Oh, I
or
didn't think so.
jealousy
No, I
or?
think Cassandra was, I think Jane Austen was a 3D person. I think we know her, Jane Austen personally, by her work. There's some Lydia. Yes, she's a lot like, Jane Austen herself was actually tall and slender and described as having a beautiful nose and mouth. She wrote most of this sitting in the drawing room, listening to her relatives. She was in life, fully in life, but a great listener. So I think all that she was known to be, perhaps is something that her sister Cassandra felt should just be understood through less. So
Okay.
for whatever reason, she burned all those papers, and that was her choice. We're sad that we can't know her in a better way, but I think we see her through her work.
That's fair. I kind of have a question for Bill, if that's okay.
Sure.
I am so curious. Do you have some other stories in mind that you are craving to put? Oh my! Well, thank you, Miss Murray.
Miss Murray.
There's that song that black
She's
out.
really happy that you're here.
Well,
Oh, the storm.
Cinderella was coming.
Storms are brewing.
there's a story.
goodness, Miss Murray has entered the chat, our resident ghost.
I do have one little story, but
I was going to say some more GCT stories I would love to hear.
well, GCT stories. Let me tell you the story I have. When we did the other production, the woman who auditioned for us, Susanna Lee, a British actress who is Vivian Lee's goddaughter,
Cool.
had been off the stage for some time, and she got a nerve back down to audition, and John Rowe cast her as Lady Catherine de Bourgh. She was very, she didn't know she could do this or not. Well, she inhabited the part. She told us great stories. She knew from her film career, both in England and in America, she knew everybody. She knew the Duchess of Devonshire, which was one of the Mitford girls. Is it Barbara? Devo, that sounds like I know her well. She lived at Chatsworth, the model from Pemberley. So Susanna told her she would go and visit her, and this woman, the Duchess of Devonshire, had a passion for Elvis Presley. Now that resonated with Susanna Lee because Susanna Lee had made a film called Paradise Hawaiian Style with Elvis, and they had a little fling. And so Elvis, Susanna Lee, Vivian Lee, Devo, the 11th Duchess of Devonshire, and the Elvis room at Chatsworth. All of that's just too much to comprehend. But that's a story. That's a juicy story. From the two. I know. Well, we would be in rehearsals, and Susanna would say, "Oh, darlings, I've got to take this. It's Joni. Joan Collins was calling her. She had to talk to Joan Collins."
Of course.
And then she'd say, "Oh, darlings, I've got to take this. It's Jane. It's Jane Russell, movie actress Jane Russell." Those ladies of an age were going off to Las Vegas and do some fundraiser, and I forget other Hollywood, celebrities of a time were coming together. So we let her go on to that. GCT stories.
Yeah.
GCT stories. Well, I directed a play here once.
What?
The Woman in Black, two-hander, two actors. However, during the middle of the show, a man sitting right there was going, "Whoa!" Because there was a ghostly woman standing by him. He was looking his plate, but there's not supposed to be a third character. But the ghostly woman comes up on stage and is part of the show. You just don't know that. Anyway, we were at the last Sunday rehearsal. We're doing photographs. Everybody's gone from rehearsal, and we just have the two actors, John Rowe and Kyle Hatley, me and Elvis Presley, and we're taking some pictures. And Kyle goes back in the dressing room. He has 2 or 3 different costume changes, and he's back there changing, and someone's talking to him, and he comes around the corner. There's no one there.
Oh!
Kyle is kind of freaked out. He comes in here with half of his costumes. He goes, "What? Did you all come in and talk to me a minute ago?" I said, "No, we're in here saying what's up." It's like, "Okay, I'm sorry. I'm bringing all my costumes in here. I'm changing in here." Somebody was talking to me back there. We get a little bit further into the costume shoot, and there's this kerfuffle of noise up front. I'm not making this up. The shutters that cover their boxes, whatever they are, electrical boxes, 3 of those were standing open. We all got scared and decided to hurry up and take the pictures and get out of here because we didn't know what was happening. I've never had another experience here quite like that. It was this moment.
Wow.
And we had a light right here that during the production, several times you could tighten it all you wanted, it would come down. So after the first weekend, at the end of the matinee, we went to the dressing room and had a ceremony of wow. And we said to Miss Murray, "We apologize. We're doing a play about a ghost who is bad. And it's not you. And we know all ghosts are not bad. And we love you. You and the mice and CT look after this place when we're not here. So we apologize to you." The light never fell again. It never lost its glory. No more crazy up front. We did kind of look over our shoulders as we were going on stage and doing the show, but never had another experience like that. That's our ghost story.
Oh, I love it.
The woman.
Well, I guess she was happy to have you back.
We thank you, Miss Murray. Are there any other questions? We were good to talk about.
I would like to comment on Justin's Wonder Woman change
Oh,
on
yes.
stage. Where you talk about the quick changes, but that is the quickest into
That is
dance.
really funny.
It's glorious.
Yeah, oh yeah, that
I
was
was wondering
good.
if you could show us how that was done.
I don't know if the Gen Zers understand your reference.
Yeah, there are 2 points in the show that make my heart stop cold out of terror. Is whenever the ball is thrown at me and it may or may not bounce off stage.
She went rogue last night.
But you caught it tonight.
Yeah.
Really
I caught
well.
Oh, I was so relieved.
Last night she went all over the place. Like,
And,
bang, 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 bang.
the other part is right before that quick change happens, because if it messes up, it messes up so bad in front of everyone. But luckily, me and Katie ran it a million times, and it's been fluid every time. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I was gonna ask, why are all your scary moments with me?
And I've always had like this side eye with my fan, like, well, I guess
do a great
there
job.
were 3 in the line. Like,
I could always feel Annie vamping as I was getting the Velcro done. She's like,
You know, a little costume miracle. John and I went to see this. John Rowan and I went to see this play in Kentucky at Actors Theater. John Jory did the scripts, and the women come down stage. They have their bonnets in hand, and they walk. Someone puts a shawl on them, and they turn and walk up stage, and they put their bonnet on. They walk back, and there's this beautiful bow. They can bring that way. There was no tying of a bow. It's up. Magnets. Half the bows in this hand, half's in that hand. They turn up stage. Bows all tied. But again, the whole thing. Well, their costumes had magnets too. So they
Magic.
Mm-hmm. No Velcro ripping, just magnets. But we had to find out how that magic works. Right backstage. Any other questions? We thank you for your patience.
I have one.
Stephen
really
has
quick.
The gentleman in the row back there.
In all the blue. So only for about a year in my life, since I was diagnosed as neurospicy, and it wasn't ever really something that I thought of before, and until Amy really mentioned it, preparing for this role. But I never really thought about how autistic Mr. Darcy is. Did you, Mitchell? Did you notice that? When you...
I was told about halfway through where somebody said that,
Yes,
I
thank
think
you
like
very
this
much.
much online about it as well. But
and
Yeah.
I was enlightened at that point. But I had not thought about it before because I've also been that sort of like, I don't know what to say here. I'm just going to stand still and stay quiet.
Well, I mean, just some of the things you say, like I tell things as they are. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. I'm not gonna.
I don't have the ability to see things as less. Yeah, it's like the factualness and the in a complimentary way. You know, like the beautiful parts of the spectrum, like that. Yeah.
How interesting that Jane Austen gives that attribute to this particular character. You know, in most productions, he doesn't say much at all in the first half of the piece. And I praised our director for choosing someone with this mellifluous voice.
Oh my goodness,
When you finally
Mitchell,
hear him
seriously.
That's another word right there.
You're drawing to it, but just keep talking, keep saying.
It's been a lot of fun. I like that the words fit a lot of deep voice moments, I would say.
Deep voice.
Yeah. The thank you is my favorite line in the entire thing.
I think the house is big.
Yeah, that one.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Should we take one moment if anyone has anything else they'd like to contribute
Yes.
or ask or state?
I just have one last thing I would like to say. We auditioned for several weeks with a man named Joe Ranager, who was playing Mr. Bennett and Charlotte Lucas. And Annie Freris popped in here a week before we opened, saved our butts, and did an incredible job. Oh my God. We love Joe, but goodness, Annie, it's been lovely working with you. I'm so glad you joined our cast.
I've never been one to be grateful someone falls ill, but you know. I'm really, really glad that Joe was able to heal up and come enjoy the show.
Yeah.
And since I've been working here since February of 19, and I actually injured myself and was not able to go on in my dream role in Spam-A-Lot, so it was a lovely little karmic retribution that I got to jump in the saddle with these amazing people and play such a fun role. Honestly,
Absolutely.
I like the difference between the two, and I've since childhood, my parents can tell you I've always been a tomboy who enjoys exploring my masculine side. So I've been a stage mom many times, but I'm a very proud stage dad.
Yay.
This is theater. It takes you places you haven't been, but it always brings you right back. Here we are, thanking you for coming
Yes,
and listening
thank
to
you
us.
all.
Thank you
so
very much.
much.
Go enjoy everything Kate Hamill has done,
Yes.
and come back to watch Little Women or audition for it in season 52.
Yes, girl.
I will. Just for you.
Yay!
Yay. And hope you brought your umbrellas. It's
Yes, it's
ugly
stormy.
out there.
We will be hanging out, so don't feel rushed if you don't feel safe driving in that. So. And thank you, Bill!
You're
Yay.
welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you, John and Spirit.
And Jane Austen for being here today.
Yes, James, okay.
Jane was-